It's very difficult to cope mentally with our dear one's loss. To add to the stress is ensuring you have all that was earned by your family member goes to the right person. To help you chart your way through tough times, on today's episode, we will help you a step-by-step guide on how to transfer Demat account to your name or the claimant's name after the demise of the loved one. What are the documents required? What is the cost involved in moving shares from one account to the other? To discuss all of this, we have Roongta, founder, Fee Only Investment Advisors LLP. Harsh, good evening. Welcome to the show. Before I begin this conversation, let's just talk a bit on the importance of having the right nominee, because that really sorts a lot of issues that might come later on. So, and not only about having a nominee for your Demat account, let's talk about having a nominee for all your investment instruments. What's the importance of nominating someone right at the time when you are beginning your investment in that specific instrument?
So I think nomination is extremely important because, if you don't want your loved ones, the reason why, say, you have made certain investments, you don't want your loved ones to have to go through or have to wait till long court processes are over to get access to the assets that you have, uh, gathered with so much hard work. I think you need to nominate. What nomination does is it allows, for example, if it is dematted shares or it is mutual fund units, once you have made a nomination, what it allows the depository participant or the mutual fund AMC to do is to be able to transfer it to the nominee, to the named nominee, uh, and that takes care of their liability. They don't really have to bother. The AMC or the depository participant does not have to get into the hassle of who's the legal heirs, etc. Uh, and therefore, the transfer after demise happens pretty quickly without court formalities, etc. Typically, if there is no dispute, then uh, the nominee, having received the assets, can then divide it up among the legal heirs. But basically, the process of transfer after the demise becomes extremely simple, and therefore it is extremely important that you do it. And the importance of this you can understand from the fact that SEBI has now made it compulsory both for Demat accounts as well as for in mutual fund units, that you have to give a nominee. If you are not giving a nominee, you have to give a signed declaration that you do not wish to avail the facility of nomination. Uh, and that is going to apply not just to fresh investments that you are going to make, even all your existing investments. You will, if you have not already nominated, you will have to either now nominate or give this declaration saying that I do not wish to nominate. I think that is an excellent step. Making this mandatory is an excellent step. I wish that everybody should not take this declaration about I don't want to nominate, uh, but should actually nominate their person who they want to hold the assets after their demise.
All right. So now, since it's made mandatory now for everyone who still haven't done that, I think that's the first step that you should be doing, and is nominating a nominee in all your financial instrument. But then let's talk about transferring the Demat account on your name after the demise of your loved one. In case of no nominee, this process is slightly much more longer and complicated.
Oh, absolutely. If there is no nominee and
Right.
if the value exceeds 2 lakhs, if the value of the securities in the Demat account, if it exceeds 2 lakhs, then there needs to be a succession certificate. You either need to obtain a legal heirship certificate or a succession certificate or a probate if there is a will, etc. Without that, it cannot be, the securities cannot be transferred. So that's a process that one needs to go through even when there is no dispute. So, I mean, it's not something, as I mentioned in the response to the first question, that please do have nominees, because the process, if there is no nominee, is intricate, expensive, time consuming.
So, if in case you have a nominee and you want to get the account transfer on your name, what's the process and what document you actually present?
So, we are talking of dematerialized securities,
Right.
securities lying in your Demat account. In this case, one thing, let's make it clear, the account itself does not get transferred, the securities will get transferred. So, just let me explain. If I had securities, let's say, in my account, and my two children were the nominees, then on my device, the securities held in my Demat account will get transferred to the Demat account separately held by my two children, 50%, if that is the percentage that I have put in the nomination. So it isn't as if they take over my Demat account. Each security in that Demat account, 50% of each security in that account will go to my son's Demat account. So if he does not have one, he will have to open one. Same applies to my daughter. If she does not have one, she will have to open one. And the securities will get transferred. The Demat account by itself does not get transferred.
What about having a joint Demat account and you have one of them passing away? So, in that particular scenario, you would need the sole authority of that particular account and security. So, how can you do that?
So again, as I said, the Demat account is never transferred. In the case of a joint account, the nomination, there might be a nomination or there might not be a nomination. But if there is a joint account, then the securities will be transferred to the other joint holders. Let's assume there are only two joint holders, and one of the joint holders passes away. In which case, depending on whether it is the first named joint holder or the second named joint holder, the documentation could be little different. But essentially, what it says is that the other holder needs to open his or her Demat account, and into that, the securities will be transferred. Any nominations on the joint account is ignored till all the joint holders pass away. Only if both the joint holders or all three of the joint holders pass away, will the nomination in a joint holding come into play. Till then, it is a question of just transferring it into the Demat account of the next joint holder.
If there are no nominees in the joint account, then what happens?
So, as I mentioned, if only one of the joint holder dies, then it will be transferred to the Demat account. The securities will be transferred to the Demat account of the, let's say, the second joint holder. But if both the joint holders die, then of course it will, and there is no nominee in the Demat account, in the joint Demat account, then obviously it has to go through the same court procedure, unless, as I said, the value is less than 2 lakhs, in which case there are shortened summary procedures.
What's the entire cost involved and how much time, how many working days actually this entire process takes, Harsh? Because that's very crucial.
So I think the importance of nomination can be stressed from the fact that if there is a nomination and the transfer is happening pursuant to that, at least as far as Demat account or mutual fund units are concerned, a huge amount of work has happened on the processes surrounding the transfer. So where there is nominee, there would be some costs, because you might have to give some kind of an affidavit, or you might need to get the death certificates notarized, etc. Again, those procedures are under observation right now, and maybe those would change. That's something I would like to talk about. But Essentially, if there is nomination, it would happen very quickly, less than 30 days post your submitting documents. Cost is next to nothing, literally next to nothing. It's admin costs that you would typically incur, irrespective of the value. Irrespective of the value. Moment you go for nomination, moment you go for transfer, it's called transmission. On the death, when a transfer happens, that's called transmission. Moment you go for that, without a nomination, you have to go through a court process. And court process, as we know from Hindi movies, you have this tariq pe tariq culture. It's expensive, time consuming, problematic.
So the things could the entire process could be actually sorted and made much more easier if there is a nominee in place, and then later on you really need to ensure that you have the documents on you, whether dematerialized or in hard copy or form. But then it's very important to save up all these documents. Thank you so much, Harsh, for being on the show and explaining the transfer and transmission of your Demat account and other securities. Thank you so much.